Hi everyone, so glad to see you all. Are you ready to dig into our learning today? Okay, let's get started. Yesterday, we started a new story. Do you remember the new story that we started? Yes, it's corduroy. Nice. And you had a job to do. What was your job? Yes, to identify the main character in corduroy. Okay, and who is the main character? Yes, it's corduroy. How do we know that? Because he's on almost every page of this book. Every time you turn a page, you see corduroy. Okay? So he is the main character because he is on almost every page. The whole story is about him. Nice work on that. We are going to stay with corduroy today. Let's see what we're doing. Okay. This is a word you've seen before. Very tricky word for you. Setting. Okay, this is setting. And setting is where the story happens. And I told you a really easy way to remember the setting is by thinking of it as a place. Okay, so setting, where the story happens. Okay, now what are we doing with this? Here's corduroy. Here's setting. What do you think we're doing? Yes, let's see if you're right. Let's see. I can identify the setting in corduroy. Yes, you are going to identify the setting in corduroy. Now, setting is tricky, okay? But I'm going to give you a little help today. If you think about the characters and where they are, you can figure out the setting in a story, okay? Now, let me give you an example. Say you're reading a story about kindergartners. Okay? The whole story is about kindergartners, so they're the main characters. Where would the kindergartners be? Where could you find kindergartners? Yes, in a school. So if the kindergartners are inside a school, then that's the setting of the story. The setting of the story is a school because it's where the characters are. You're looking for the characters, and when you see the characters there, then that's the setting, okay? So setting is a little tricky. That's why we're going to keep working with it the whole way through this week, next week, and in the weeks to come, okay? So don't worry if you don't get it right away. We will help you with it. If you just pay attention to where the characters are, look at the characters and see where they are, that will help you decide the setting. Okay, so your job today is to identify the setting in corduroy. Okay, you're going to draw the setting, so you're not going to get a choice like you did last week with Sylvester. I want to push your thinking, and I actually want you to draw it out, okay? Since corduroy is one of my favorite stories, and it's not a very long story, I'm going to reread the story to you, and then you're paying attention to where the characters are so you can identify the setting of the story. Okay, here we go. Corduroy is a bear who once lived in the toy department of a big store. Day after day, he waited with all the other animals and dolls for someone to come along and take him home. The store was always filled with shoppers buying all sorts of things, but no one ever seemed to want a small bear in green overalls. One morning, a little girl stopped and looked straight into Corduroy's bright eyes. "Oh, Mommy," she said, "look, there's the very bear I've always wanted." "Not today, dear," her mother sighed. "I've spent too much already. Besides, he doesn't even look new. He's lost the button to one of his shoulder straps." Corduroy watched them sadly as they walked away. "I didn't know I'd lost a button," he said to himself. "Tonight I'll go see if I can find it." Late that evening, when all the shoppers had gone and the doors were shut and locked, Corduroy climbed carefully down from his shelf and began searching everywhere on the floor for his lost button. Suddenly, he felt the floor moving under him. Quite by accident, he had stepped onto an escalator and went up. Could this be a mountain, he wondered? I think I've always wanted to climb a mountain. He stepped off the escalator as it reached the next floor, and there, before his eyes, was a most amazing sight. Tables and chairs and lamps and sofas and rows of beds. "This must be a palace," Corduroy gasped. "I guess I've always wanted to live in a palace." He wandered around admiring the furniture. "This must be a bed," he said. "I've always wanted to sleep in a bed." And up he crawled onto a large, thick mattress. All at once he saw something small and round. "Why, here's my button," he cried, and he tried to pick it up. But like all the other buttons on the mattress, it was tied down tight. He yanked and he pulled with both paws until pop! Off came the button, and off the mattress Corduroy toppled, banged into a tall floor lamp. Over it fell with a crash. Corduroy didn't know it, but there was someone else awake in the store. The night watchman was going his rounds on the floor above. When he heard the crash, he came dashing down the escalator. "Now, who in the world did that?" he exclaimed. "Somebody must be hiding around here." He flashed his light under and over sofas and beds until he came to the biggest bed of all. And there he saw 2 fuzzy brown ears sticking up from under the cover. "Hello," he said. "How did you get upstairs?" The night watchman tucked Corduroy under his arm and carried him down the escalator and set him on the shelf in the toy department with the other animals and dolls. Corduroy was just waking up when the first customers came into the store in the morning. And there, looking at him with a wide, warm smile, was the same little girl he'd seen only the day before. "I'm Lisa," she said, "and you're going to be my very own bear. Last night, I counted what I saved in my piggy bank, and my mother said I could bring you home." "Shall I put him in a box for you?" the saleslady asked. "Oh, no, thank you," Lisa answered, and she carried Corduroy home in her arms. She ran all the way up the 4 flights of stairs into her family's apartment and straight to her own room. Corduroy blinked. There was a chair and a chest of drawers, and alongside a girl-sized bed stood a little bed just the right size for him. The room was small, nothing like the enormous palace in the department store. "This must be home," he said. "I know I've always wanted a home." Lisa sat down with Corduroy on her lap and began to sew a button on his overalls. "I like you just the way you are," she said, "but you'll be more comfortable with your shoulder strap fastened." "You must be a friend," said Corduroy. "I've always wanted a friend." "Me too," said Lisa, and gave him a big hug. Okay, so now your job is to think about the setting of this story. You're going to draw the setting, and then you're going to go on Seesaw and describe the setting. Tell us what the setting is, okay? Have fun. I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.